world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next hour. UN Security Council to hold an emergency meeting on UAE's request to seek pause to Gaza fighting. US President calls Israeli PM Netanyahu urges to protect civilians and increase aid to Gaza. UN Chief Antonio Guterres says protection of civilians in Gaza conflict is paramount, warns Gaza growing more desperate by the hour.
I've always been consistent in my call for strict compliance of the well-established principles and the rule of international humanitarian law. The protection of civilians is paramount.
And in sports, India remains unbeaten, registers sixth consecutive win by defeating England in Cricket World Cup encounter. On to details now. The United Nations Security Council will hold an emergency meeting today to discuss the conflict between Israel and Hamas. The meeting is being convened on the request of UAE. The UN Security Council earlier failed in its attempts to stop the war in Gaza as its members were unable to approve either the United States resolution calling for humanitarian pauses or Russia's calling for an immediate ceasefire. And the Israeli military repeated its call to Gazan people to leave the northern region immediately. Military chief spokesperson in a televised briefing on Sunday said that its calls on Palestinians in the Gaza Strip to evacuate southward was now urgent.
Over the last 2 weeks, we have been calling on residents of the northern Gaza Strip and Gaza City to relocate southwards temporarily. Relocating southward is for their personal safety. We are today emphasizing that this is an urgent call.
And the Red Crescent and doctors in Gaza said they have received warnings from Israeli military to evacuate the Al-Quds hospital in the Gaza immediately. However, the staff of the hospital have said that moving the hundreds of patients currently being treated there would not be possible as some are seriously ill.
We don't have the means to evacuate Al-Quds hospital. We have over 400 patients who are inside the hospital. Many of them are in the intensive care unit. Evacuating them means killing them. That's why we refuse the evacuation order. We call on the international community to intervene immediately to stop a humanitarian catastrophe that is unfolding.
Well, clouds of smoke covered the sky over Gaza as the Israeli army intensified their operation against Hamas. Israel is expanding ground operations in Gaza, and its fighter jets have struck hundreds more Hamas targets in what Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has called the second phase of a 3-week-old war. Telephone and internet communications were partially restored in Gaza after a more than day-long blackout that had badly impacted rescue operations. Meanwhile, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has reiterated his call for immediate release of hostages in Gaza and a humanitarian ceasefire.
The world is witnessing a humanitarian catastrophe taking place before our eyes. More than 2 million people with nowhere safe to go are being denied the essentials for life: food, water, shelter, and medical care, while being subjected to relentless bombardments. I urge all those with responsibility to step back from the brink. And I reiterate my appeal for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire, the unconditional release of all hostages, and the delivery of a sustained humanitarian relief at a scale that meets the needs of the people of Gaza. We must join forces to end this nightmare for the people of Gaza, Israel, and all those affected around the world, including here in Nepal.
Well, the families of Israeli hostages held by Hamas protested outside the Israeli president's house in Jerusalem. A group lobbying for the families of Israeli hostages held by Hamas insisted that the safety of their loved ones should be a priority for the Israeli government. Relatives of the hostages formed a human chain, holding up flyers with information and pictures of their kidnapped loved ones. Hamas took more than 200 hostages, including children, back into Gaza during its raids. The hostages are believed to be hidden in the Gaza Strip, possibly in a warren of tunnels Hamas has built there. An international criminal court prosecutor, Karim Khan, visited the Rafah crossing on the Egypt-Gaza border amid accusations that both Israel and Hamas are violating international law in the ongoing war. Impeding relief supplies to Gaza's population may constitute a crime under the International Criminal Court's jurisdiction, Karim Khan told a news conference in Egypt. Karim Khan also said Israel must make efforts without further delay to make sure civilians receive basic food, medicine. United Nations officials have said the aid supplies are limited and do not correspond to the huge need on the ground.
And I want to underline clearly to Israel that there must be discernible efforts without further delay to make sure civilians receive basic food, medicine, anesthetics, morphine. We hear reports of operations taking place without these basic medicines, as if we're in the Middle Ages.
Well, U.S. President Joe Biden also spoke with President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi of Egypt on Sunday, lauding the efforts of Egypt for playing a leading role in the efforts to facilitate the delivery of humanitarian aids to the affected civilians of Gaza. The two leaders reiterated their commitment to continue accelerating assistance flowing into Gaza beginning Sunday and ensuring a steady supply in the coming days. According to a press statement issued by the White House on Sunday, the two leaders also discussed the importance of protecting civilian lives, respect for international humanitarian law, and ensuring that Palestinians in Gaza are not displaced to Egypt or any other nation. And as Israel Defense Forces have entered Gaza and are carrying out the second phase of on-ground operations against Hamas, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke with U.S. President Joe Biden on Sunday. Though Netanyahu's office didn't provide much detail on the conversation, White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan on Sunday said in a TV interview on the EBC network said that the U.S. believes Israel should take every means possible to distinguish between Palestinian civilians and Hamas militants in its military operation in Gaza.
War, of course, is highly unpredictable, so it's difficult to predict how it will play out. What I will say this, Israel was attacked in a brutal, vicious terrorist attack. They are taking steps to go after the terrorists who struck them. They have been doing so from the air. They're now doing so on the ground. And Hamas, this brutal terrorist organization that conducted the attack, is hiding behind the civilian population, which puts an added burden on Israel to differentiate between the terrorists and innocent civilians. But it doesn't lessen their responsibility under international humanitarian law and the laws of war to do all in their power to protect the civilian population. And that's equally true moving in on the ground as it is taking strikes from the air.
Well, Jake Sullivan, the White House National Security Advisor, has said that the burden is now on Israel to distinguish between civilians and Hamas, even as it launches its ground operations. Here's some details from our correspondent Amrit Pal from West Bank.
Jake Sullivan said yesterday that, it is now Israel's responsibility to distinguish between the civilians and Hamas. I think what he means is that Hamas is using, innocent civilians as human shield. What Israel released of the Al-Shifa hospital, where there are a number of patients due to the shelling, there are their relatives, there are more patients coming in due to the intensified military campaign. But beneath that, Hamas has its command and control center, and it has its operational base. So there are a lot of tunnels, and those tunnels run under the city. You have buildings over them, people living in them. Yoav Gallant is very clear that the Israeli defense minister, that they will go in for a close combat. In that situation, the civilian count will go up steeply. Most parts of the world, even the staunchest of Israeli allies like the United States, are telling them that the burden is on you. Now it is your responsibility to see that the innocent civilian lives are not lost or are minimized in this. The steps they would do is, one, they would increase the information warfare by not allowing videos to come out of there, cutting off their telephone lines, communication networks. Internet is down there. Many places are in darkness, so that messages don't pass around, videos don't pass around. Secondly, heightened diplomacy. There are diplomats all around the world are at it. At the military level, I think they would be working on specific intelligence on where the Hamas bases are, where their command control structures are, and how they can go in. I hear that they could use sponge bombs. Sponge bomb is a kind of a bomb where it's like a foam, which you send inside the tunnels, and then it solidifies into something hard and hits whoever it's targeted at. They say it will be targeted at the Hamas fighters or Hamas guerrillas or Hamas terrorists. So these are the measures militarily they would take, but as I said, diplomatic measures and also the information warfare will be an integral part of that.
Well, as Israel expanded its offensive in the Gaza Strip, thousands of people broke into 8 workhouses in Gaza to loot flour and basic hygiene products. United Nations Palestinian Refugee Agency director said the looting marks the growing frustration among the people.
This is an indication that people in Gaza have reached a breaking point. The levels of desperation, their frustration, their fear, their concern, they have been living under tight siege for more than 3 weeks. Bombardments continue. They have lost so much. They are grieving themselves. They have become displaced. So the levels of frustration and despair are really very high, and people are hitting rock bottom when it comes to their patience, their ability to take more.
And now let's take a look at other stories making news with a focus on Israel-Hamas conflict. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited southern naval base in Ashdod on Sunday. Netanyahu met with Israeli naval forces and greeted them for the work they are doing in protecting the country. The Russian Republic of Dagestan's capital city was forced to close its airport on October 29th after a crowd of demonstrators supporting Palestine poured the runway. Israeli authorities have diverted all aircraft bound for Manchikala, Dagestan to other airports due to reports of demonstration denouncing Israeli actions in Gaza. A large groups of protesters entering the air terminal and storming various rooms with Palestinian flags were seen in the footage. Israel has urged Russian authorities to protect Israelis and Jews in their jurisdictions following potential reprisals by pro-Palestinian protesters in Dagestan. And a chain of demonstrators lined up in front of the Qatar embassy in London to show solidarity with Israel and call for the release of hostages held by Hamas in Gaza. Qatar mediated negotiations between Israel and Hamas aimed at de-escalating fighting in Gaza. As the Israel-Hamas conflict ravages lives, a resident drove to the northern Israel to feed starving animals left behind by the owners fleeing to save lives. Passionate towards animals, Lily Perry feeds stray cats and dogs every day in areas where they barely get anything to eat. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Amid growing concerns about North Koreans' threat to the US and South Korea holding large-scale joint drills. Bangladesh charges opposition leader party members with murder. Prayer service was held for victims of main shooting in Lewiston.
turning crisis into opportunity, transforming ideas into action, stories of real change, tales of sustainable solution.
This series is going to tell stories of such change makers.
Watch Change Makers on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on, the US and South Korea are holding large-scale joint drills involving stealth planes to boost their joint capabilities this week. It comes amid growing concerns about North Korean threats to stability in the region. DD India correspondent Patrick Falk gives us the details.
Well, the vigilant defense exercises will last until Friday, and they're described as mega drills involving 130 aircraft from both countries, including South Korean F-35A fighter jets, as well as American F-18 fighters that are normally based in Japan. And the drills are designed to enhance combined military capabilities and come amidst North Korea's nuclear and missile threats. They also come following a week of joint combat training between the US and South Korea at the Korea Combat Training Center in an area that appeared to simulate fighting in Pyongyang. And this involved high-tech weapon systems, including drones carrying weapons, as well as unmanned vehicles, and are part of efforts by both countries to modernize combat capabilities. It's also significant because it comes amid heightened tensions between China and the Philippines in the South China Sea.
Well, Bangladesh's main opposition leader and over 100 other top party members have been charged with the murder of a policeman killed in mass demonstrations ahead of upcoming elections. Among the arrested are the senior members of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party leadership, who potentially face the death penalty if they're found guilty. Police said Mirza Fakhrul Islam Alamgir has been detained for interrogation for Saturday's violence in which a police officer and a protester were killed, and at least 26 police ambulances were torched or damaged. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz announced on Sunday that his country was willing to invest in gas and critical minerals in Nigeria, Africa's largest oil producer. This marks Scholz's third visit to the region in 2 years, reflecting the increasing importance of the energy-rich region in which Berlin has traditionally had little involvement. At a joint briefing with Nigerian President Bola Tinubu, Scholz said that there is a willingness to invest especially in critical minerals.
Another important element of our cooperation is point 3, our energy partnership. This is about gas, but also about hydrogen, as a gas of the future clean and climate neutral. We already operate a hydrogen office here and want to make progress overall in the expansion of renewable energies.
And the G7, consisting of the world's major industrial powers, has called for the immediate removal of import restrictions imposed by China on Japanese food products. This move comes after Japan released treated radioactive water from the Fukushima nuclear power plant. The statement issued by the G7 trade ministers also expressed concern over China's growing economic coercion through trade. China retaliated by labeling this a form of economic coercion and accused the G7 of disrupting global production and supply chains. And UN Secretary General Guterres warned of dire consequences during his visit to Kathmandu, highlighting the alarming rate at which the Nepal's glaciers are melting. The International Center for Integrated Mountain Development warns that Hindu Kush Himalaya glaciers could lose 75% of their volume by the country's end, putting millions of lives at risk from flooding and water shortage.
I will visit the Himalayas to see for myself the terrible impact of the climate crisis on the glaciers. The situation is dire and it is accelerating. Nepal has lost close to a third of its ice in just over 30 years, and glaciers are melting at record rates. The impact on communities is devastating, and I will meet local people in the Himalayas to hear directly from them about how they are affected.
Helicopter surveillance helped Mexican authorities to evaluate the damage caused by Hurricane Otis while working to restore power to the southern state of Guerrero. Broken boats and smashed yachts were scattered along the coast of Acapulco, Mexico, as Hurricane Otis intensified. The death toll from the Category 5 storm has risen to 43, according to Guerrero governor. A front causing more heavy rain is expected to strengthen off Central America and move towards southern Mexico.
Tomorrow night, at the latest on Tuesday, there will be electricity in the houses of Acapulco. This is admirable because it is not done anywhere else in the world after a tragedy. You don't manage to re-establish the electricity supply so quickly. This will allow gas stations to start distributing fuel.
And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. A prayer service was held for the victims of main shooting in the Basilica of Saints Peter and Paul in Lewiston. The shooting incident of last week had killed 18 people and left 13 more injured in the aftermath. The death toll in Kazakhstan's coal mine fire accident rose to 45 on Sunday. The mine owned by ArcelorMittal supposedly caught fire due to methane blast. Colombians voted on Sunday to elect new mayors, governors and regional lawmakers. The election may also serve as a referendum for the current government and could influence the 2026 presidential vote. A dog-o-ween contest was held in Peru to choose the best-dressed canine out of many cute participants dressed as Chucky, Naruto, pirates, brides and superheroes, and so on, eager to claim the title of the best costume. The top 3 most creative costumes were decided by an applausometer at the event, and winners went home with prizes of dog food products. The streets of Key West in Florida were filled with dancing unicorns, colorful floats and marching groups during the 2023 Fantasy Fest Parade. The parade is a part of the 10-day Halloween festival featuring costume-themed events. The festival began in 1979 to boost tourism in the downtown area. Dressed as Spider-Man, around 1,000 people gathered in Argentina's capital to break the world record for the most people dressed as the famous Marvel superhero at a single public event. The participants had to provide signatures and get their photo taken as documentation to provide to the record-keeping group, hoping to obtain Guinness World Record title. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Horrific train collision in India's Andhra Pradesh claims at least 10 lives. We tell you about the life of Homi Jahangir Barbab, father of Indian nuclear program, on his birth anniversary. We'll show you the festive spirit in Trafalgar Square ahead of the Indian auspicious festival of Diwali.
Welcome to Lakshadweep, the land of 100,000 islands, the aquatic wonderland of India, an archipelago of spectacular marine gems, colorful coral and crystal clear lagoons, a kaleidoscope of turquoise blue. Each island of Lakshadweep draws in explorers with its unique beauty. Witness idyllic sunsets and pristine beaches of Kavarati. the majestic lighthouse and colorful boat races at Minikoy. Experience water sports in the shallow lagoons of Kadmat. Unwind in the serene setting of Bangaram. Lakshadweep offers a precious heritage of ecology and culture, with rhythmic beats of folk dances echoing through these islands, delighting visitors in traditional folk dances and local artworks. With abundant marine life and mineral resources, the islands are advancing towards a greener, brighter future. Lakshadweep is set to amaze visitors with its breathtaking wonders and picturesque seascapes. In the enduring spirit of incredible India.
Shagato to West Bengal, India's cultural epicenter. West Bengal invites you to share its richness, to be united as one family with one shared vision of building a better tomorrow. Welcome to a happy place. To nature's warm embrace. Witness the power of faith, fruits of hard work, and protectors of Mother Earth. Unique in every way. Discover something new every day. A small state with big ambitions. And a bigger heart. Mizoram welcomes to love, laughter, and celebrations.
Always welcoming. The vibe of Punjab is larger than life. Warm up to grandeur that's beyond compare. And history that's dotted with tales of bravery. Smiling soul of India, where music, art, cuisine, and culture comes together to create an unforgettable impression. Punjab is all set to win your hearts with its unique and colorful extravaganza.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kuran, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. UN Security Council to hold an emergency meeting on UAE's request to seek pause to Gaza fighting. US President calls Israeli PM Netanyahu, urges to protect civilians and increase aid to Gaza. UN Chief Antonio Guterres says protection of civilians in Gaza conflict is paramount, warns Gaza growing more desperate by the hour. And in sports, India remains unbeaten, registers 6th consecutive win by defeating England in Cricket World Cup encounter. And DD India continues to bring you the latest from the Israel-Gaza conflict, even as the death toll in Gaza has crossed 8,000 and over 21,000 people injured in Israel's bombardment of the Gaza Strip. The situation in West Bank also remains tense, with 111 people dead and over 2,000 injured in Israeli strikes. Our correspondent Amritpal Singh takes stock of the public anger on the streets of Ramallah in Palestine.
While most of the casualties are happening in the Gaza Strip, with Israel stepping up its military campaign, but Israel is also hitting targets in West Bank. I'm right now standing inside Palestine and West Bank, and if I can ask my camera person to show you the scenes here, the people are protesting after a target was hit inside West Bank. So far, in various strikes within West Bank, over 110 people have been killed and many more arrested. In hundreds, about 700 people arrested. Arrests are being made every day, and over 2,000 people have been injured. So the people here ask that what is the logic of arresting or hitting targets inside West Bank? Though Israel says that Hamas has its supporters in West Bank and they are targeting them. But the question being asked in these protests is that why is Israel hitting them when Israel claims it is not hitting civilians. Civilians are merely collateral damage, and it is hitting Hamas terrorist bases. With cameraman SP Dubey, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India in West Bank, Palestine.
Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and French President Emmanuel Macron expressed their concern about getting humanitarian support into Gaza. In a telephonic conversation, both the leaders discussed about the risk of the Israel-Hamas conflict spreading in the wider regions. The leaders also reaffirmed Israel's right to defend itself within the limits of international law and the importance of finding a way to release the hostages held by Hamas. Both leaders said the long-stalled two-state solution envisaging independent states for the Israelis and Palestinians was the best way to create peace. And as humanitarian situations worsen in Israel-Hamas war zone, new U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson said on Sunday he expects floor action this week to advance a funding bill to support Israel exclusively. Even though U.S. President Joe Biden is pushing for a $106 billion aid package for Israel and Ukraine combined, Johnson has said bolstering support for Israel should top the U.S. national security agenda in the aftermath of the October 7th surprise attack on the Jewish state by Hamas militants. Members of the U.S. House of Representatives, which Republicans controlled by a narrow majority, are scheduled to return from a recess on Wednesday. And at the ongoing G7 meeting in Osaka, Japan, India is represented by Union Trade Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal. On the sidelines of the G7 summit, Minister Goyal held bilateral meetings. He spoke with the French Minister for Foreign Trade regarding avenues to give further impetus to the growing India-France economic partnership. Minister Goyal also met with the Executive Vice President of the European Commission, Valdis Dombrovskis, and discussed progress of the India-EU Free Trade Agreement negotiations. And in a groundbreaking international development, the G7 countries and the European Union will establish a voluntary code of conduct to govern advanced artificial intelligence systems today at Brussels. This ambitious 11-point code aims to enhance global AI governance standards, prioritizing safety and trustworthiness. It emphasizes risk mitigation, incident handling, transparent reporting, and robust security measures. The EU leads in regulation with the AI Act, while Japan, the US, and Southeast Asian countries pursue to a more hands-off approach to spur economic growth. The code fills the regulatory gap, promoting responsible AI governance. And Indian External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar will pay a 4-day visit to Portugal and Italy from Tuesday with an aim to further bolster India's bilateral ties with the two key European nations. According to the Ministry of External Affairs, in the first leg of the trip, Jaishankar will visit Portugal on October 31st and November 1st and will be in Italy on November 2nd and 3rd. Well, the 76th session of the WHO Regional Committee for Southeast Asia begins today. India's Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia will attend the meeting. 4-day meeting will focus on accelerating prevention and control of cardiovascular diseases, ending neglected tropical diseases, and regional health security are among the key issues to be discussed. A ministerial roundtable will also be held on strengthening primarily healthcare as a key element towards achieving universal health coverage. Also, countries will be facilitated for public health achievements, many of them triggered by the focused approach towards the regional flagship priorities. And the death toll in India's Andhra train collision reached 10 as rescue operations continue in Vizianagaram district. 2 NDRF teams also joined the search and rescue operation with Railways, RPF, local police. According to the officials, it was a rare-end collision between the Visakhapatnam-Palasa passenger train and Visakhapatnam-Ragada passenger train. Indian Prime Minister on Sunday condoled the loss of lives in the train accident and announced an ex gratia of 2 lakh rupees from the PM's National Relief Fund for the next of kin of each deceased and 50,000 for the injured in the Andhra Pradesh train accident. While Union Railways Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw said that all injured people have been shifted to different hospitals for treatment and announced a compensation of 10 lakh each for families of the dead. And a series of blasts at a prayer meeting in the southern Indian state of Kerala's Kalamasari killed at least 2 people and left several injured. In response to the tragedy, Kerala's Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan expressed the condolences and called the incident very unfortunate. He also declared the formation of a special 20-member team to conduct a thorough investigation. The special investigative team will be led by Additional Director General of Police, Law and Order, comprising 20 members with expertise in various areas. The team is tasked with unraveling the circumstances surrounding the blast and ensuring justice is served. According to the officials, a man has surrendered before police claiming to be responsible for the blast. And Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to visit western state of Gujarat on Monday. Prime Minister will inaugurate and lay the foundation stone of various development projects worth around rupees 5,800 crores in multiple sectors in Mehsana. Prime Minister will also participate in Rashtriya Ekta Divas program on 31st of October and pay tribute to India's Iron Man Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel on his birth anniversary. Prime Minister will address the officer trainees of the 98 Common Foundation course at the culmination of 5th edition of Aramp. And Homi Jahangir Bhabha, hailed as the pioneer of Indian nuclear advancements, possessed an indomitable spirit that propelled his meteoric rise to greatness. Born into a wealthy family of industrialists and businessmen in Mumbai, his destined path seemed predetermined. However, his restless soul yearned for the ethereal secrets of physics. In 1937, he embarked on a transformative journey to Cambridge University, a fateful decision that would set the stage for his monumental contribution.
Doubling of the world's population within the next 100 years, which is the least that we can expect. This would exhaust the known reserves of fossil fuels in under a century.
Homi Jahangir Bhabha, hailed as the pioneer of Indian nuclear advancements, possessed an indomitable spirit that propelled his meteoric rise to greatness. Born into a wealthy family of industrialists and businessmen in Mumbai, his destined path seemed predetermined. However, his restless soul yearned for the ethereal secrets of physics. In 1927, he embarked on a transformative journey to Cambridge University, a fateful decision that would set the stage for his monumental contributions. In a letter to his father in 1928, young Homi described his passion for physics.
I seriously say to you that business or a job as an engineer is not the thing for me. It is totally foreign to my nature and radically opposed to my temperament and opinions. Physics is my line. I know I shall do great things here, for each man can do best and excel in only that thing for which he is passionately fond, in which he believes, as I do, that he has the ability to do it, that he has in fact been born and destined to do it. Besides, India is not a land where science cannot be carried on.
Armed with a prestigious PhD in nuclear physics, Bhama returned to his motherland, India, swathed in promise. As the inferno of World War II raged on, Bhama embarked on the mission of enlightenment at the Indian Institute of Science. The seeds of change had been sown, leading to the inception of the legendary Tata Institute of Fundamental Research in 1945. He established the esteemed Bhama Atomic Research Center and orchestrated the groundbreaking UN Conference on Atomic Energy, leaving an indelible mark on global nuclear discourse. On a fateful day in 1966, Bhama's vibrant existence was abruptly extinguished. A tragic plane crash, mere moments before a rendezvous with destiny in Geneva, silenced the illustrious physicist, leaving behind an irreplaceable void. His legacy, however, burns brightly, forever etched in the annals of scientific achievement. Sujata Lochab for DD India. And now some good news from the Indian state of Gujarat's Ahmedabad. A student of 8th standard has developed GPS technology-based safety shoes for Indian Army personnel. With the shoes on, if they get into any trouble, their location can easily be traced. The shoes will serve to ensure the safety of women, children and the elderly in addition to the Army soldiers.
Atman acrobatic shoe is a wearable safety device which is compact, concealed and a customizable device. This assures the safety of each and every people who wears. This can be fitted in any shoe you give. And another thing is that this helps you in SOS situations. For example, women safety, child safety, kids kidnapping safety, blind safety, old home people safety, armed forces. Whenever you are in a SOS situation, you just need to press the button, SOS button. That will trigger GSM and GPS and send the latitude and longitude to the registered number devices, which will help them to find them where are they. This is a two-way communication. If they also need, the relative also need to see their location, they will be provided with a code and a password. Just they need to enter in the SMS and they will get their live location. And it updates automatically every 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Whole thing is customizable.
And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. India and Kazakhstan's joint military exercise Kazakh begins today. The Indian Army and Indian Air Force contingent comprising 120 personnel will take part in the 7th edition of joint military exercise. The 13-day-long exercise will be conducted at Kazakhstan. The Indian President's house, Rashtrapati Bhavan, North and South Block are light up in red as part of Go Red campaign for dyslexia awareness. Along with that, the Indian Parliament and India Gate were also lit in red. The move has been made in honor of International Dyslexia Awareness Month, celebrated in October. Thousands of athletes ran in Run for Unity Marathon in New Delhi on Sunday. The marathon was organized by the government to mark the birth anniversary of one of the founding fathers of India, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Participants ran in different categories under a blanket of haze and dust. Large number of devotees attended the week-long International Kullu Festival in India's Himachal Pradesh. The festival is being celebrated with great joy as India celebrated the auspicious festival of Dussehra. Ahead Ahead of the Indian auspicious festival of Diwali, the Mayor of London organised the annual Diwali celebrations at Trafalgar Square. The free public event had a large number of audience witnessing Indian traditional dances, music, activities and food from various parts of India that captured the festival spirit. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Geopolitical tensions in West Asia affect Asian share markets and oil prices. Verstappen takes record 16th win of the season in Mexico. Manchester City outsmarts neighbours Manchester United at Old Trafford.
Welcome to Jaipur.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on into business news. United Auto Workers leaders approved a tentative deal on Sunday with Ford. It includes a pay hike of at least 30% for full-time workers and could more than double pay for others. It also includes $8.1 billion in manufacturing investments and could give workers up to $70,000 in extra pay over the 4.5-year life of the contract. While bargaining continues at General Motors without any deal, UAW President Sean Fain on Saturday ordered a walkout at GM Spring Hill, Tennessee engine and assembly plant. Meanwhile, General Motors and Ford shares have fallen roughly a fifth since the beginning of the strike on September 15th. Stellantis shares are down by just 1%. Sources say that one key sticking point with GM was the retiree pension cost. GM has many more retiree eligible for that increase than either Ford or Stellantis because its workforce was far larger in the 80s and the 1990s. GM said it was disappointed by the UAW decision to strike Spring Hill. The Spring Hill walkout could hobble GM's large pickup production as well as assembly of other popular GM vehicles. Ripple effects from an extended Spring Hill strike could boost the cost of the stalemate for GM well beyond the $400 million a week the company reported last week. And in a monumental turn of events, the Writers Guild of America made significant strides towards resolving its 148-day strike, one of the longest standoffs in Hollywood's history. After weeks of intense negotiations, the WGA reached a tentative agreement on a new contract with the entertainment companies. The tentative deal, a result of extensive discussions between the WGA and the Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers, addresses several crucial issues raised by the writers, while the exact language of the contract is yet to be released. Well, in a groundbreaking move, White House is set to unveil its extensive executive order on artificial intelligence today, aimed at tracking immigration, safety and boosting technological advancements. The order mandate assessments for advanced AI models used by federal workers and facilitate the entry of skilled workers. This comes as the U.S. government seeks to regulate AI amidst global concern and ahead of an international summit on AI risk. The order would also require federal agencies, including defense and intelligence, to evaluate the integration of AI into their work with a focus on cybersecurity. While the EU is working on its own regulations, the US is in early stages of developing a bipartisan legislation on AI. And Asian share markets were mixed on Monday as Israel's push into Gaza stirred fears of a wider conflict ahead of central bank meetings in the US, UK and Japan, where policy tightening may occur. The yield on 10-year treasuries reached a 16-year high of 5.021% on Monday after rising 30 basis points so far this month. The market is also priced in 165 basis points of easing for 2024, starting around mid-year. Experts are persuaded that the Federal Reserve will remain unchanged at this week's policy meeting due to the steep increase in market borrowing cost. And Asian share markets opened on mixed notes on Monday amid fears of widening conflict as Israel pushes into Gaza. With the Israel-Hamas conflict entering an undeclared second phase, the upcoming central bank meetings in the United States, Britain and Japan might see a policy tightening. Major businesses showed underwhelming earnings, contributing to the S&P 500's retreat into correction territory of 4,117. S&P 500 futures had edged up 0.3% to 4,151, while Nasdaq futures added 0.5%. Eurostoxx 50 futures clipped 0.2% and FTSE futures were flat. Japan's Nikkei fell 1.1% amid speculation of a tweak in yield curve control policy in the upcoming meeting. And ahead of the Fed policy meeting and China's manufacturing data later this week, oil prices slipped by $1 a barrel on Monday. The price drop came as investors showed caution due to the current geopolitical tensions in the Middle East. Brent crude futures dropped by 1.1% to come at $99.50 a barrel by 0001 GMT, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was at $84.54 a barrel, down by 1.2%. Early on Friday, the prices had closed on a rise of 3% as the Israel-Hamas conflict stepped up, stoking worries about the impact on the region that accounts for a third of global oil production. The outcome of the upcoming Federal Reserve monetary policy meeting, U.S. employment data, earnings from tech giant Apple Inc. and China's report on October manufacturing and services PMIs will be the deciding factor for an impact on fuel demand. And on to sports news now, we are watching DD India News Hour. India defeated England by 100 runs in the ICC Cricket World Cup in Lucknow to register their sixth consecutive match. Indian pacers Jasprit Bumrah and Mohammad Shami wreaked havoc to dismiss England for 129 runs. Earlier, England restricted India to 229 for 9 from 50 overs after electing to field first. Rohit Sharma led the charge from the front with 87 runs. Surya Kumar Yadav made 49 while KL Rahul made 39 runs. With this win, India moved to the top of the league table undefeated in the tournament so far. For England, this is their fourth consecutive loss and fifth overall. It seems that the defending champions campaign is all but over now. Well, Rohit Sharma, in his 100th international match as captain, etched a memorable moment by completing 1,000 runs in ODIs in the current year. The Indian skipper achieved the milestone during this world match against England. More importantly, Rohit is the only skipper to have scored 1,000 ODI runs in 2023 and third batter overall to attain the feat after compatriot Shubman Gill and Sri Lanka opener Patham Nissanka. Rohit also went on to complete 18,000 runs in international cricket, fifth Indian batter to do so after Sachin Tendulkar. Virat Kohli, Rahul Dravid and Sourav Ganguly. Rohit has been in outstanding form in the World Cup as he also became the first Indian to hit 50 sixes in a calendar year in ODIs. And after India's outstanding victory against England in Lucknow, DD India's Abhishek Mahajan caught with the fans.
Good spinners, we have good pacers, everyone is good and the fielding is excellent. We are good we are taking catches, we are not misfielding and our morale is very boosted.
We had a good total on the board and we were able to defend it. So that's all what matters. Win is what matters and I think we are very, very happy about it. It's in a way very, very plus for India. You know, the kind of the bench strength that we have today, I don't think any other team has it today.
How India bowled and came back in the game, especially Shami, Bumrah, how they started the innings for India, it was really tremendous. All bowlers are performing their best and it is really boosting the team's confidence and everything.
We enjoy a lot and India is going to win the final. We were certain that our bowling is strong and we will come back.
Meanwhile, Game 30 of the ongoing ODI World Cup 2023 will feature a clash between Afghanistan and Sri Lanka today. Both sides will be coming into the clash on the back of brilliant wins in their previous games. Sri Lanka took on defending champion England in their previous game. Both sides took on each other in Game 25 of the tournament, and Sri Lanka registered a win by 8 wickets. On the other hand, Afghanistan faced off against Pakistan in their previous game, where they registered an 8-wicket win. And now moving on to news from the F1 circuit. Red Bull's triple world champion Max Verstappen made Formula One history as the first driver to take 16 victories in a season. He won a crash-halted and action-packed Mexico City Grand Prix on Sunday. The Dutch 26-year-old was also equaled French great Alain Prost's haul of 51 career wins, with his 5th win in 6 editions of the Mexican race at the Autodrome Hermanos Rodriguez. Sought Max Verstappen, Mercedes' Lewis Hamilton finished second with fastest lap, and Ferrari's Charles Leclerc was third in the race. Red flagged and restarted just before the halfway point when Haas's Kevin Magnussen crashed heavily. Lewis Hamilton, Verstappen's under-pressure Mexican teammate Sergio Perez, retired after colliding with pole slitter Leclerc as he tried to pass into the first corner. And Manchester City registered a dominant Derby Day victory at neighbours Manchester United on Sunday. The 3-0 win at Old Trafford took the defending champions up to third, 2 points behind Premier League leaders Tottenham. The Erling Haaland struck twice and Phil Foden added another. City has lost their last 2 on the road in the Premier League, but had too much for a United side who, despite a recent run of narrow wins and a spate of her injuries, have issues to address across the pitch. If it wasn't for Andre Onana, who made a series of fine stops, the scoreline could easily have been heavier. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook X, formerly known as Twitter and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.